So let's get right into it. The conversation around pregnancy over 35 is almost always centered on one thing: risk. It's a story filled with warnings and potential complications, but is that it? Is it really all risk and no reward? That's the big question we're asking today, because the answer might just surprise you. All right, first things first, let's cover what we've all been told. You know, the standard script. We have to understand the conventional wisdom to really grasp how wild some of the new science is. This is the baseline story doctors often start with. And hey, for some very good reasons. So you've probably heard this term, advanced maternal age. It's an official medical label. The moment a woman turns 35, she's automatically put into this category. And as you probably know, that label comes with a pretty well-known checklist of potential concerns and a whole lot of extra monitoring. And look, the medical community is very clear about the potential risks, and they should be. Things like pre-existing conditions can make a pregnancy more complex. And yeah, statistically, the risks for things like gestational diabetes, preterm birth, and certain chromosomal abnormalities do go up. These are all real important factors to be aware of, no doubt about it. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the data actually pointed to a completely unexpected advantage? This is where things start to get really interesting. Okay, so a huge study out of Washington University looked at routine ultrasound scans for more than 76,000 women. And what they found? Well, it threw a major wrench in that simple risk-only narrative. And this wasn't some minor, insignificant detail. I mean, listen to this quote. Even the scientists running the study were caught off guard. You know something big is happening when the researchers themselves are surprised by their own results. They were looking at something different, beyond the well-known chromosomal issues. And that's where the story totally changed. So what was this shocking discovery? It comes down to this number, 40%. After they adjusted for all the other risk factors, the study found that women who were 35 and older had a 40% lower risk of their baby having certain major physical birth defects. We're not talking about chromosomal issues here, but actual physical problems. Let's break that down, because it's pretty incredible. The overall risk for having one or more major physical issues, 40% lower. Specifically, the rates of defects related to the kidneys, the brain, and the abdominal wall were all lower for the over 35 group. Now, what's also interesting is that the risk for heart defects was about the same as it was for younger mothers. And believe it or not, the surprises don't stop with the baby's health. Other research is starting to uncover some pretty fascinating potential long-term benefits for the mothers themselves. Okay, this next part sounds almost too good to be true, but several different studies have found a connection between having kids at a later age and living longer. Now, this doesn't prove one causes the other, but it's a link that keeps popping up in the data again and again. So what could possibly be going on at a biological level? Well, one leading theory is all about something called telomeres. You can think of them like those little plastic tips on your shoelaces. They protect your chromosomes from fraying. The longer your telomeres, the longer and healthier your cells live. And here's the crazy part. Studies show that women who have children later in life tend to have longer telomeres. The billion-dollar question, of course, is why? Were these women just born with genes for a longer life? Or did the pregnancy itself somehow have a protective effect? We don't know yet. And on top of that, there's the brain. During pregnancy, there's this massive hormonal surge. We're talking estrogen and progesterone levels that can be 20 to 40 times higher than normal. And there's actually some evidence that this flood of hormones might be protective for the brain, with some studies suggesting women who are pregnant later in life have better cognitive function as they get older. So all of this really points to a huge shift in how we should be thinking about this. Experts like Dr. Noah Sterling are trying to move the conversation away from just fear. The label advanced maternal age doesn't have to automatically equal high risk. It's all about getting a more complete, more nuanced picture of what's going on. Okay, so we've talked about the moms, but what about the kids? Well, when researchers control for things like income and education, they find some really compelling potential benefits for children born to older parents too. For example, one major study found some pretty remarkable things. As the mother's age went up, so did her children's language development. And on a super practical level, kids of older parents were actually less likely to wind up in the ER for unintentional injuries. And it's not just about academics or safety. It extends to their emotional well-being. Another study found that children of older moms had fewer behavioral, social, and emotional problems in middle childhood. Researchers kind of suggest it might be as simple as what one said: we just get better at parenting as we get older. Maybe we bring a little more patience and life experience to the whole thing.
All right, now it is absolutely crucial that we put all of this fascinating research into the right context. These findings are amazing, but they are just one piece of a much, much bigger picture. This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Are all of these incredible benefits for both the mother and the child actually caused by waiting to have kids? Or are they just connected to the kinds of people who tend to have kids later in life anyway? Now, here's the big scientific caveat. Correlation does not equal causation. Experts are really careful to point out that other powerful factors could be driving these results. For instance, older parents are often more financially stable. They might be more focused on healthy habits during pregnancy. And honestly, just chasing a toddler around when you're older forces you to stay physically and mentally on your toes. Any one of those things could be the real reason for these positive outcomes.
Okay, if you remember one thing from this entire explainer, please let it be this. We have to separate two totally different conversations. Conversation number one is about fertility. It is an undisputed biological fact that fertility declines with age. But conversation number two is about what happens once a pregnancy is already established. And as we've just seen, that story is way more complicated and in many ways a lot more encouraging than we've been led to believe. So where does all this leave us? Well, maybe this research allows us to ask a better question. Instead of only asking, what are all the risks of waiting, we can also start asking, what are the hidden strengths? It's really about shifting the conversation away from automatic fear and toward a fuller, more balanced, and frankly, more fascinating picture of what pregnancy can look like at any age.